What if having a messy desk or constantly forgetting someone's name wasn't actually a flaw? What if it was a sign of high intelligence? It might sound strange, but it turns out some of the most brilliant people out there have habits that look a lot like our own everyday quirks. So today, we're going to dive into the surprising science behind these weird habits of highly intelligent people.
I mean, think about it. It's a pretty wild question, right? We're all taught that being smart looks a certain way. Being super organized, always on time, remembering every little detail. But this idea, it completely flips that on its head. It suggests that the very things we might be a little embarrassed about could just be side effects of a brain that's operating on a whole other level.
Okay, so let's start with the social stuff. Those little quirks that pop up when we're around other people? They can sometimes make us feel awkward or maybe even come across as rude. But in reality, there's something way more complex happening inside our heads.
We have all been there. You meet someone new, you shake their hand, they say their name, and poof, 2 seconds later, it's just gone, completely vanished. It's so easy to beat yourself up over it, thinking you're just being careless or not paying attention. But is that really what's going on?
Well, the reality is something called a cognitive trade-off. Just think of your brain's processing power like the RAM in a computer. It's a finite resource. So when your mind is busy wrestling with some big, complex idea, it has to make a choice. It strategically puts routine stuff, like the name you literally just heard, on the back burner. It's not that your memory failed, it's just a side effect of a brain that's already clocked in and working hard on something else.
All right, next on the list, the dreaded small talk. People who can't stand chatting about the weather or what they did over the weekend, they often get slapped with a label, right? They're antisocial or unfriendly.
But really, it all comes down to a cognitive preference. A highly intelligent brain is often just wired to crave depth and substance. That surface-level chit-chat, it just doesn't provide the mental stimulation it's looking for. It's like trying to feed a gourmet appetite with plain crackers. So it's not about being antisocial at all. It's about being hungry for a much more interesting conversation.
So, let's shift gears. We're moving away from the social world and into the inner world. This is where things can get really chaotic, but it's also where the magic happens, in those personal spaces where brilliant minds really get down to business.
Come on, you've heard this a million times. A cluttered desk means a cluttered mind. It's one of those old-school productivity myths that basically says if your space isn't tidy, then your brain can't be either. But here's a thought. What if we've had it completely backward this whole time? What if that chaotic desk is actually a mirror of active thinking? It can be a sign that a mind is so fired up, so busy generating ideas and connecting the dots, that organizing file folders just falls to the bottom of the list. I mean, let's be honest, creativity itself is a pretty messy process.
And this same idea explains the secret power of daydreaming. It's not just about zoning out. See, when you hit a wall with a really tough problem, your brain can shift into what scientists call a diffuse mode. So while it looks like you're just staring out the window, your subconscious is actually going to work, connecting all these seemingly unrelated ideas in the background until, bam, you get that aha moment out of nowhere. It's a super important part of solving creative problems.
Okay, what about our sleep schedules? For literally centuries, the early bird gets all the praise, right? They're seen as virtuous, productive, disciplined. And the night owl? Well, they often get stereotyped as just being lazy. But get this, research actually points to a real cognitive advantage for night owls. For a lot of creative people, those quiet, uninterrupted hours late at night are like an incubator for deep thinking. The rest of the world is asleep, the notifications have stopped, and the mind is finally free to just wander, explore, and come up with something new.
So, we've talked about forgetting names, having a messy desk, staying up late. They all seem kind of random, right? But there is a really powerful common thread that ties every single one of them together.
So what is it? What's the one big idea that connects all of these seemingly weird habits?
It all boils down to this one powerful concept: cognitive resource allocation. Just think of your brain's attention and energy as a limited budget. A highly intelligent mind is constantly making a strategic choice to spend that budget on the big stuff, solving complex, abstract problems. So what happens? The routine tasks, like tidying that desk or remembering a name, they just get less of the budget. These eccentricities aren't character flaws at all. They're the totally logical side effects of a mind that's invested its resources somewhere else.
And this brings us to our final and maybe the most important point. It's time for us to completely rethink what intelligence actually looks like out in the real world.
So,
If you take one thing away from all of this, let it be this. Intelligence isn't about being perfect. It's not about having a flawless memory or a spotless workspace. It's about priority. Real brilliance lies in where you choose to focus your powerful and, let's face it, limited attention.
So, I'll leave you with one last thing to chew on. After looking at these habits through this new lens of cognitive allocation, which one of these weird habits are you going to see differently from now on, either in yourself or maybe in someone you know?